The afternoon sun filtered through the high windows of the courtroom, casting long and steady shadows across the polished wood benches and the floor. This was a place where stories collided, where the messiness of human relationships was distilled into facts, figures, and legal arguments. At the center of it all sat Judge Judy Justice, a woman whose reputation for sharp wit and even sharper judgment preceded her. She looked down at the folder on her desk, which contained the details of case number 3015, the matter of Perez versus Bowen. Beside her stood Kevin, the faithful bailiff who ensured that the order of the court was maintained with quiet dignity. He called the room to order, his voice steady as he told everyone to rise and then invited them to take their seats. The two individuals standing before the bench were Stephanie Perez and Matthew Bowen. They had once shared a life, or at least a significant portion of one, but today they stood on opposite sides of the legal divide. Stephanie was suing Matthew for $2,000, money she claimed was a loan for attorney fees. Matthew, in turn, had filed a counterclaim, alleging that Stephanie had caused him to lose his job and had slandered his reputation. Judge Judy looked at Stephanie Perez and began the inquiry with a direct question. She was interested in the origins of their relationship. Stephanie explained that they had met at a truck stop in January of the year 2022. At that time, both of them were working at the establishment. It was a place of transit and hard work, a crossroads where people from all walks of life passed through. They began dating, and within a short period, the relationship progressed to the point where Stephanie moved into his home. She clarified that she was staying there primarily to help him with his children, though she still maintained her own separate residence. For a period of 2 months, she was there constantly, 7 days a week, stepping into the role of a caregiver for Matthew's 2 young children. Matthew Bowen had held full-time physical custody of his children since the year 2020. They were little more than infants when he took on the primary responsibility of raising them. He had court-ordered legal custody, a duty he took seriously. However, as the summer of 2022 approached, a new challenge emerged. The mother of the children returned to the scene, seeking to regain custody through the legal system. This was the moment of crisis that necessitated the hiring of an attorney. Stephanie claimed that she had provided Matthew with $2,000 to cover the costs of a lawyer. The relationship eventually reached an unpleasant end, a parting that both agreed was not amicable. Stephanie wanted her money back, while Matthew argued that the circumstances of their breakup had led to a vindictive act on her part. He claimed that she had sent a video of a physical altercation at his workplace to his employer, which resulted in his termination. He also alleged that she had aligned herself with the mothers of his children to undermine his custody. The courtroom felt heavy as Matthew described the difficulty of the previous months. In January, a judge had transferred custody of his children to the mothers based on an ex parte application, an emergency order issued without a hearing. It was a devastating blow, and he felt the system had treated him unfairly by setting a future hearing date 8 months away. However, by February, the situation shifted again when one of the mothers realized she could not manage the children alone and returned them to him. Just the previous week, the final paperwork had been processed to restore his full-time custody. Judge Judy turned her attention back to the matter of the $2,000. Matthew admitted that Stephanie had given him the money in June of 2022. He explained that they had been searching for a lawyer together. Stephanie had initially offered $7,000 for a high-profile attorney in Bakersfield, but Matthew had insisted on finding a more affordable option. They eventually found a lawyer in Lancaster who quoted a fee of $3,500. Matthew went to the office alone, and when he returned home, he spoke with Stephanie about the cost. Stephanie's memory of the conversation was clear. She explained that Matthew needed $3,500, and she offered to help with $2,000 from her personal savings. She was not working at the time, but she wanted to support him in his effort to keep his children. She testified that she told him she would need him to help her with her own bills, such as her mortgage, electric, and gas. When they became due, she wired the money directly from her bank account to his. When the time came for her bills to be paid, she asked him for assistance, but he claimed he had no money to give. Judge Judy examined the evidence, including text messages between the two. In these messages, Matthew acknowledged that he owed Stephanie money. He did not dispute the debt at the time. Instead, He apologized for the delay and promised to pay her back when he could. When pressed by the judge, Matthew admitted that the money was for the lawyer fee of $2,000. He also admitted that he had only paid her back approximately $100. This left an outstanding balance of $1,900. The judge then addressed a counterclaim regarding the video and the loss of Matthew's job. Matthew worked at a truck stop called Love's, a place that serviced large commercial vehicles. On the 18th of September in 2022, an incident occurred while he was working as a cashier. He noticed a customer attempting to steal a party speaker valued at $400 along with other electronic items. Matthew tried to get the attention of his co-workers, but when they did not respond, he took it upon himself to stop the thief. He swatted the speaker out of the man's hand, and a physical struggle ensued. Matthew claimed the man had an 8-inch knife and that he was acting in self-defense. A video of the incident had been captured by a random trucker who happened to be at the scene. The video showed the chaotic moments of the fight and Matthew's intense reaction. Matthew alleged that Stephanie had sent this video to his employer and to the mothers of his children to harm him. However, when the judge asked for proof that Stephanie was the one who sent the video or that the video was the reason he was fired, Matthew had none. His witness had failed to appear, and he could not provide any documentation or testimony to support his claims. Judge Judy explained that without evidence, the counterclaim could not stand. She noted that while sending such a video might be considered a mean-spirited act, it was not necessarily illegal unless it met the criteria for a specific legal wrong. More importantly, without proof of her involvement or proof of the cause of his termination, there was no basis for a judgment in his favor. Consequently, the judge dismissed the counterclaim. The final judgment was clear. Matthew Bowen owed Stephanie Perez the remaining balance of the loan. The judge ordered him to pay $1,900. As the session came to a close, Stephanie felt a sense of relief, having stood up for herself and her financial security. Matthew accepted the decision, though the road ahead for him remained challenging as he continued to navigate the complexities of fatherhood and employment. After the parties left the room, Judge Judy remained for a moment to speak with Sarah, a legal commentator. They discussed a modern phenomenon of people immediately reaching for their phones to record incidents rather than offering help. They reflected on the changing nature of workplace rules and the often confusing consequences for employees who try to do the right thing by protecting property. The judge expressed a frustration with society where the lines between right and wrong seemed increasingly blurred and where consequences for bad behavior often seemed absent. She believed that there must be rules, and that those rules must be enforced to maintain a sense of order and justice. With those final thoughts, the court was adjourned and the quiet of the room returned, leaving only the echoes of the stories that had been told that day.